Alright everyone, welcome, and today I figured we'd do something we haven't done on this channel in quite a while. We'll come over here to Google, and we'll take a look at some of the most asked questions. So if you're unfamiliar from these videos, we've done a few of them in the past. So basically we come in here, we search Godot how to, or Godot what is, etc., right? And we just let the autocomplete go. And now we have a list of what are apparent popular questions that a lot of people are asking. And we're gonna take a quick run through here and give you a quick answer going through them on how to, in this case, how to change a scene. And then we'll look at how to use await, how to pause the game, export, instantiate, and so on. So let's go ahead and jump in. And I'll go ahead, start a new project, and we can get started with how to change scenes. Alright, so in order to show how to change scenes, I've gone ahead and I've created two scenes here. I've got scene 1, which is just a 2D scene with the Godot sprite in the middle. And we have scene 2, which is just a 2D scene with the Godot sprite off to the right and modulated to be red. This way we can have a clear distinction between the two scenes. Alright, so what I would do here is I'm going to start with scene 1 and we're going to change over to scene 2. So I'm going to go ahead up into my scene 1 here. I'm just going to add a script somewhere. Scene 1 GD, that's fine. Alright, so we'll come on in, and how are we actually going to change the scene? Well, wait, what? Oh, it's because I already have this running. My mistake. There we go. So there are two ways to actually change scene here, and to do this, we have to get the scene tree. So we're going to say get tree. And then from here, we have two options. We can say change scene to file. And you can see you have autofill here. And if you don't, you can of course just come down to your, over to your file tree and just grab the scene you want to load or change to and drag it in. And that'll do the same thing. That'll provide you a string with a path to that file. Now, if we were to run this, we're going to go from this scene here, and we're going to load up into scene 2. So we run that. Boom, there we go. We load it instantly. And the other way that we can change scene is, again, we have to get our scene tree. So get tree. And if we do change scene to packed, this is where we have to put in a packed scene. So if we were to go ahead and just bring our scene in here like this, and I'll just comment this out with Control K. And you'll see we have an error here. And of course, it's not going to go away if we try to run it. We're going to have this crash and error out. And why is that? Well, that's because we need to put a packed scene in there. And in order to have a packed scene, we can go ahead and load and pass in the argument of a path to the scene we want to load. And that'll work. And are we able to use I don't think we can use preload here now. But there you go. There's how you can go ahead and do that. And of course, if you had an exported path up here for a variable or something, you can always drag your scene in and load it that way. Alright. There you go. There's the two ways that you can change your scenes. Let's jump into the next question. How to use await. Alright, cool. Well, we can use this together with these. So we already took a look at it, and both of these doesn't really matter which way you go. Personally, I usually just go the path route, the file route here myself. And we want to look at how to use await. So the way you would use await is you type in the keyword await. We have a space, and then we have the object that we want to wait for, right? The item that we want to wait for. So let's say get tree and create a timer of 3 seconds, right? So we're waiting on a 3-second timer, and what are we waiting for? That timeout signal. So now we would wait 3 seconds, at which point the timeout signal would be emitted, and once that timeout signal gets emitted, then we're going to wait. So we're waiting for the timeout signal from this timer object. So if we were to run that, we would now wait 3 seconds and then change scenes. And that's really all it comes down to when it comes to using a wait here. So using timers isn't the only way to use an await. So for example here, I'm just going with a 0.1 on a timer here, just so we can actually get the initial scene loaded. Because you'll see if I don't, I'm just gonna comment that out. If I were to run that, we're just gonna sit on this boot screen until everything finishes. And if I at least put in that 0.1 timer there, we can at least jump into viewing the main scene at least, right? And you notice that we have this wait in here, we have this pause, and then we actually change scenes at the end there. I'll go ahead and show that again. It did close last time when everything caught up. If we just go ahead and wait and we take a look, you see we went ahead and changed scene, and we didn't change scene until after we used await on my function. And my function is just running through a for loop, printing out the number between 1 and, is that a million? An easy way to tell these apart is you can actually put underscores in between, just like so, to make it easier to read. So for I in a million, we're printing out I, so we're printing out every number between 0 and a million here. And once we return, then we're done waiting for our function, and we can move on to changing the file. What if we don't have a return in here and we try it? There we go. So we can see it still works the same just fine, even without having a return in here. So you don't only have to wait for timers to create pauses, you can wait for a function to be fully completed before advancing in your code. All right, hopefully that gives you a good idea of how to use the await keyword. Next up, we have how to pause a game. All right, no problem. All right, so this will be no problem to do. So I'm going to go ahead and just write rewrite this small script here, and I'm going to make this little sprite here just constantly move over to the right so we can see when it's paused and when it's not. And then I'll show you how to pause and unpause your code. All right, so we have the simple move, and I just put a script on my sprite and commented out the stuff that we had here before, so we're not running through that function, we're not changing scenes or anything. And on my sprite, I'm just adjusting its X position by 1 every frame. So you go ahead and take a look, and it's just going to continuously move over to the right. All right, now for what I'm going to do here, this could be your HUD that's in control of this. Really doesn't really matter. It just depends on whether or not it's actually going to work here. And really, it shouldn't matter. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm just going to use a control. And what's important is I'm going to come over into the inspector. I'm going to look at process, and for mode, I'm going to set that. Oh, it looks like we have a few options here, but I'm going to set it to always. These two are new. Haven't seen those two before. But I'm going to set this to always, and on this control is where I'm going to add my, I'm going to call it my pausing script, and hit create. And forget that. We're going to go ahead, and I'm just going to use input. Whoops. That's in it. I want input, and I'm just gonna say if input dot is action just pressed, and I'm just gonna use UI accept, which will be my enter key. Then we're gonna do get tree dot paused equals true. All right. Now if I go ahead and run this will run perfectly fine. If I hit the pause button, my whole game is just paused. Now I can go ahead and keep hitting it, but it's not gonna change. It's gonna keep keep setting pause to being true, assuming that everything's running through. And we can actually make sure of that by printing out to our console, and we'll just say paused, so we can make sure that it's still running even when the project is paused. So you probably can't see exactly what's being written down there in the output, but you can see things are being added, and that's our pause statement being printed out. And the reason that is still working is because on our control node where the script is, the mode under process is set to always. Now if you're set to inherit, you will do whatever your parent has. So in this case, the icon is gonna pause if its parent, the node 2D, is paused. And node 2D is gonna pause if its parent is paused, which of course we're getting into like the root nodes and that. But by default, it's gonna be inherit, and the standard process is it is going to pause. Now, how are we going to unpause this? Well, the easiest way for us to go about this is to, instead of setting pause to true or false, if we just want to have a toggle back and forth and just have a pause button, we can do it just to get tree.paused equals not, or the bang or exclamation point, whatever you want to call it, equals not get tree dot paused. So what this is saying is, we're saying if it's true, then true equals not true. Right? Whoops. It should be an underscore, not a hyphen. All right, so we're saying if pause is true, then true equals not true. And if this is false, we're going to say false, right? False equals not false, which would be true. So by doing this, we can create this toggle back and forth. So I hit it, it's paused, hit it again, and it's unpaused. Paused, unpaused, and there you go. Now we have this toggle back and forth, and you know how to pause and unpause your game. Let's see what the next question is. How to export your game. All right, easy enough. Let's take a quick look. All right, so how do we export our game? Well, we simply go up to project, project and export, and we'll be greeted with this window. All we have to do is hit add, and we'll see all of our items here. You can go ahead and select something, and if you don't have a template, like I don't have them here, in this case, because I just downloaded this version last night, you'll actually get this red text down here at the bottom. It says export templates for this platform are missing, and you can go to manage export templates. You got a little hyperlink here. You could get the files off of the website, but if you don't want to do that, of course, you can just click the link here, and we can actually get them from inside the engine. So we can see the version that we're using, 4.2.1 stable mono. Export templates are missing, download them or install from file. So if you got the file from the website here, you would just click install from file and select it. And you can see the other templates that I have installed here, but none of them are for 4.2.1. So I'm just going to go ahead and select best available mirror, hit download and install, and that'll just take a minute to go ahead and just download those files and then install them into our project so that we could do exports. All right, this will just take a moment, so I'll see you in just a second. All right, so the export templates have finished. Oh, I clicked too much. There we go. So now they've been downloaded and they've been installed, and we can see the file, the path, and everything. You can open up the folder and you can manage all your templates there. But if I close that and if I open up my project export again, you can see we're perfectly fine and we can make these exports. Now, in the case of Android, you see we got some information down here. Texture compression enable ETS2 ASTC to fix. You can just do fix import. There you go. It's done it for us. Windows, you can go ahead, change any of the settings that you want here, and just hit export project. You can do export pck/zip, and that's just going to basically export your assets. If you wanted to do that, say for making patches or a mod pack for a game that's set up to load external PCKs or zips, well, generally just going to hit export project, give it a name. It's got exe. You can choose whether or not you want the debug, which is going to be the console that opens up with it, and just go ahead and hit save, and it'll export out. Now, if you're doing Windows, you'll have yellow text down here about RC edit, and that's for this information here in the application section. So if you want to set up the trademarks, copyright, file description, product name. So this is when you right click an object program on your computer, you go to properties and you see all this information. If you want to change all of this as well as the icon, you're going to need to install RC edit, and you can set that up, I believe, in the editor, if I'm not mistaken. If I type RC edit, yes, export Windows, there's RC edit. So you would just install it and then direct your path directly to it. Mac OS, force built-in code sign, you could turn that on if you really want to. I'm not a huge fan of the Mac side for things like that, just because Xcode can get involved, especially if you're going with iOS, but that's a completely separate subject. So something worth noting, if you create a Mac export from a Windows computer, you will get a zip file. And if you export a Mac version from a Mac computer, you actually get a DMG file. Alright, let's jump into the next question real quick. How to instantiate. Alright, this is actually very simple. So let's cover this. This will only take a minute. Alright, so I'm just going to instantiate scene 2 into my first scene here. So on Node 2D, all I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and create a variable for my scene here. Now, you don't have to, of course, but I'm just going to call this scene 2. This is going to be a packed scene, and this is going to be equal to load. Now, you could use preload here. I'm just going to use load, and I'm just going to bring my scene 2 option in here. There it is. All right, so I'm just going to load up scene 2. Now, my scene 2 variable is related to this packed scene of scene 2. All right, so all I'm going to do to instantiate this is I'm going to go ahead and do var scene 2 inst, and it's going to be my instantiated scene. And I'm going to call this, I'll set this as scene 2 dot instantiate, and that's it. And as you saw in there with some autocomplete, you do have some options in there. I've never needed them, but if you want to take a look at them, you can. They're all related to the packed scene class up there, which of course you can hold control and just go ahead and click on it to open that page up. But there we go, we've instantiated it. Now the problem is it's not actually in our scene, so if we go ahead and run this, we're not going to notice anything at all. So what we want to do is then do add child. Now we're doing this on self, and since the script is on my Node 2D, it's going to be added to my own Node 2D as a child. So add child scene 2 inst, and there we go. And there's our second scene instantiated in, and from here we can reference this as scene 2 inst if we needed to. For example, and do like scene 2 inst, and we could set the name of this node. We could adjust the texture property of this if we needed to, which actually this is the Node 2D, so we'd have to get child and get our sprite icon from that. But there you go, there's all you have to do. Load up your scene, instantiate it, and then add it into your scene. How to use C#. Okay, well, the first thing you're going to do is, if we come on over, we're going to take a look at go to the Godot website. We're going to hit download latest, and you're going to make sure that you get the .NET version here and not the standard. The .NET supports GDScript and C#. So you make sure you go ahead and grab that, and then you're going to scroll down and you're going to make sure under requirements you download the .NET here for Windows, in my case, and you're just going to go ahead and click that and let your download begin. Go ahead and run any installers that you get and all that. I do have to do this eventually myself if I wanted to upgrade. If you're going to use something like Visual Studio, then just make sure that you install .NET when you install Visual Studio, and you should be fine. But that's it. Once you get that, you should be able to use it just fine. And all you have to do when creating a new script, for example, on my icon here, right, I'm just going to remove my script there, create a new one, and you can just select C# from the drop down menu. It'll be changed to a CS extension. You hit create, and this is probably going to open up automatically for me just from creating it. Just click on script, and there it is. Oh, I have two of them opening, and there you go. The editor I've selected was Visual Studio in this case, and it's opened up, and I can start writing in C#. Alright, and if you need to know where to set that, you can just go into editor settings, I believe it is. You just search external. No, not there. Come down here to .NET editor, and we could select a Visual Studio, mono develop Visual Studio Code, JetBrains, Rider, and Fleet, or you can use custom. Alright, so that'll be disabled by default, but you just gotta come on in here, set that up, and that'll automatically open up in your IDE. So you can start using C#. how to use resources. Alrighty. Well, if you want to use a resource, all you have to do is just create a new script. So I'm just going to right click inside my file system and hit new script. And I'm going to choose inherit from resource. I'm going to call this my resource. Hit create. And if I open that up, here it is. We see we have my script here. It's extending resource. Now I come in and I can give it a class name. We'll call this card details. My class name. Now I can come in and I can create all my function and everything just like when creating a normal class. So for example, I'll do an export var, and we're saying we'll call this information. We'll make this a dictionary, and that'll be set to a default. We'll call it a, let's go call it description. That'll be a string, right? Whoops. And we'll have the card's name, also a string. And stop completing that, it's getting annoying. But you can go ahead and you can get an idea as we go through some of this stuff, right? So our default here is, it's going to be a string. Can we do .new? We can. Cool. All right, there we go. Apologies there. It's been a few weeks since I've actually done code. Well, there we go. So there's how we do it there. And then all we would have to do, for example, is say inside, I was opening up the C# script again. I didn't want to do that. I'm just going to remove that off the icon. And inside of my node 2D here, for example, I can come up here, right? And now I can make an export. I can export some information, right? I'll just call it details, and that's going to be my new class, which was something I clearly can't remember. Card details. Go ahead and save that. The identifier in this unexpected identifier. Whoops. Why is that? Whoops, forgot to put in a bar there. There we go. So I'm creating a new variable called details. It is from the class card details, and I'm creating a new one. And now if I were to look in the inspector, I can see I've got details here, and I can create a new item, new card details, and there's my information. And that's essentially how you would use resources. Now, what you could do is you could come on down to your files now that you have a resource. And you could right click and say new resource. And if I type in here, we can see card details is here. I can open that up, and I can call this card 1 and save it. And I can open up the card 1 resource here in the inspector just by double clicking it in my files, and I can edit my information. This is a card, dark magician girl. All right, we can go ahead and type information in there. And with that saved, we could now go to node 2 and just grab the resource we just made. We call it card 1, bring it in and drop it into the card details, and there we go. So with this, we'd be able to access and change information without having to open up a scene, without having to really even open up Godot at all. We could just open this in the text editor and tweak this if we wanted to, but in essence, that's how resources work and how you go ahead and create them. If you want more information, there's a video on the channel already going over these. All right, what do we have left here? Move and slide, instance a scene, import pixel art. All right, so instancing a scene, we went over that. It's the same thing as instantiate. Import pixel art, that'll be an easy one to go over real quick. All right, I've got ahead and imported some pixel art in here, and if I go ahead and bring this up, you can take a look. It's right there. I'm just going to go ahead and increase the scale of it here just to make it a little easier for everyone. Let's go to 6 times, and we can see there it is. It's pixel art, but it's extremely blurry, and it's not very nice pixel art because of it. Now what we can do is in the inspector here on our sprite, we can actually come on down to the texture section under canvas item and change the filter to nearest, and just like that, everything is back to pixel art. It's nice and crisp the way it should be. However, if you're doing a lot of pixel art, that can be extremely annoying to do. So instead of setting that, we can actually head on up to project settings, I do believe it is, and under render textures, the default texture filter, if you're doing pixel art, you can just go ahead and set that to nearest by default. And there you go. Everything you import is going to automatically be using this filter for all your art. So if I were to bring this new one in, there they are, bring it in, boom, it's already nice and sharp by default, just right out of the box. So we change that to 6 as well, and you can see nice and sharp as it should be. All right, and what was the last question? The last one is use move and slide. All right, well, let's take a look at that. All right, so I've got a character body 2D here, and I'm just going to leave with the default name, and I'm just going to go ahead and give it a sprite here so we can see it. So I'm just going to bring this sprite in, make it a child of my character body. Now that's going to yell at me because I don't have a collision shape. That's fine. I don't need one for this demonstration here. So I'm going to go ahead and add a script to it. It's going to be GDScript. I'm going to hit create. And now we have this option here, right? So you want to do move and slide, and in here, that's all you have to do. It's as simple as that. And the other option that we actually have here is move and collide. So move is pretty simple, right? You're going to move. That's all it's going to do. And this is using the velocity of the character body. So when we move the character, we can manipulate the velocity property, which in Godot 4, it has this property by default. We don't have to create our own anymore. And slide or collide just describes what happens when it runs into an object. So if you have two characters maybe running into each other, do you want them to just try and slide past each other, or do you want them to just smack and collide like they ran into a wall and just kind of sit there at a standstill trying to push each other? That's basically all we're doing here. And with collide, as you can see, it's expected at least one argument. And if I just hold control and take a look, we can see the first one is motion. So that's simple. In our character body, we would just pass in something like self dot velocity. There you go. And now you can either use move and slide or move and collide. You only need one of these. You don't put both of them in here. Only use one. And if you're using this for movement, it should be under the physics process, because you're dealing with physics at that point instead of process. Alright, so there you go. There's move and slide and move and collide. Move and slide technically has an argument, but velocity is automatically already passed into that. But there you go. That answers all of our questions that we have on here. We went over how to change scenes, how we can use the await keyword, how to pause and unpause our game, how to export a project, how to instantiate and instance a scene, how to use C# real quick, right? Get that stuff all set up to start coding with it. How to use resources. We went over that fairly quickly. There's a video on the channel again that you can go over. We looked at move and slide, or how you can, I guess, put that into your game so you can move your character around, as well as move and collide. And we looked at importing pixel art and getting that filter set up either project-wide or just for the one specific sprite. But alright, that's it. Now to do it for this video, go ahead, take care, have yourselves a good one. I hope a lot of you new people out there may have found this really informational. and help with getting you going. And with that, before I start rambling on longer, take care, have yourselves a good one. I'll see you guys next week. If there's anything you guys want to see very specifically, go ahead and leave them down in the comments. If you need help with anything, again, you can go ahead and leave them down there as well. And I'll see you guys next week. Who is that showing up at the end? Okay. Alright, take care. Have yourselves a good one.